Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. We're broadcasting out of Elk River, Minnesota. You're listening to Text Messages, The Resurrection. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. Glad to be here once again. It's February 22nd, 2019. It's Saturday. Actually, it's Friday evening. Sometimes a weekend just kind of all molds into one, though. But, all right, so today, what we wanted to talk about was the large intestines. Now, the colon is about 90% of the large intestines, but it's not the whole large intestines. But usually those terms are used interchangeably, so it is important to make that recognition. So sometimes you have to be a little careful when you're interacting with either medical professionals or just laymen or just average people to make sure you have the right terminology. So today we'll delve into the large intestines a little bit to help you get a more lucid picture of what exactly it is and what it does. So the large intestine starts at the right side of the body just beneath the waist. So that would be about down here, above your hip, below your waist. And it travels up, if you look at the imagery here, travels up, goes over, then it goes down, then it goes back to the middle, then it goes out. And most of the times you know when it comes out too. So it's about 1.5 meters long and it's 3 inches in diameter. One of the reasons why it's called the large intestines is because its diameter is about, 3 times as much as the small intestine. Now, yeah, the surface area of the diameter is going to be significantly more than that because it's a function of the square of the radius. So the small intestines are only about 1 inch in diameter and the large intestines are 3 inches in diameter. So they're going to be roughly about 9 times the size as far as surface area goes. I mean, yeah, if you just measure direct radiuses, then it's not that much. Then it's 9 times, but if you measure the direct radius, it's 3 times. So if you say it's proportional to the square of the radius, then it would be 9 times. It's just some mathematics. So the large intestine consists of 5 parts. The first part is the cecum, about 2 inches long, and absorbs the digestive fluids that are passing out the ileum from the small intestines. And it's got the little appendix hooked up to the bottom here, that little finger-like thing. Now the appendix is a very critical organ. Back in the good old days, it was referred to as a vestigial organ. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of animals have evolved to have an appendix, and the ones who evolved to have it continue to have it, and some don't. Which is opposite of what evolutionary theory of the past, or evolutionary hypothesis of the past thought. So if you are if you faced with the dilemma of whether to remove your appendix or not, you absolutely should not. It'd be a horrible decision. It's a critical organ, just like every other part of your body. Your tonsils, your gallbladder, your taste buds, your saliva glands, they're all critically valuable. They're all part of a greater symptom too. I mean, they don't harbor disease. Disease is harbored through external forces, whether it's pathogens, viruses, evil bacteria, or just putting heavy metals in your body and then they cause a bunch of abrasions and scarring and everything like that. So to remove an organ is just horrible malpractice, bad advice. Essentially, you will die. Now, you're not going to die suddenly. It's going to be a very slow, painful death. For every single day, you'll feel the pain for just about every single minute, whether it's poor digestion or mental health, fatigue, nausea, in some cases vomiting, excessive diarrhea. You will essentially feel the pain for the rest of what life you have left. So even though it's not like taking a gunshot to the head where you die instantly, it's more of a slow death. And if you ask a lot of people what they would rather take, let's say, for example, you have the option of being in a prison cell for 20 years straight, then dying, or you had an option of somebody taking a guillotine and lopping your head off. Chances are pretty good you may consider the guillotine, but on the same hand, too, there is always the consideration and the hope that there is something better on the horizon. So you may think that spending 20 years in prison and then dying is a superior choice. But if you knew unequivocally that your destiny was the 20 years in prison and death, or the guillotine, instant death, without knowing anything about the afterlife, It's very difficult to say definitively which one people would pick, but the slow death is what's likely going to result to anybody who removes organs out of their body. Now, yeah, usually if you have a problem with your organ, there's another greater problem causing that. You have to figure that out. You have to identify that before you make any horrible, misguided, short-term decisions. And a lot of times there aren't going to be people to help you. You have to help yourself because you're the only one who can communicate with your body. Yeah, the brain has wavelengths that supposedly can communicate wirelessly, and you can communicate through English language or Spanish language to other people. But the reality of the matter is you're the one who has access to your central nervous system and to every single organ and tissue in your body. So you need to recognize symptoms. You need to recognize disease. You need to know what you're putting into it. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know how to eradicate it. Nobody else is going to help you. I mean, they will try to help you, but the fact is the only person who can truly eliminate disease is yourself. A lot of people, the whole idea behind this show is we attempt to at least assist thought-provoking matters so that you can better identify illnesses and tackle them rather than masking the symptoms. For example, taking drugs, removing random organs, cutting off random body parts. That never works. It's not successful. It's a horrible strategy. It's malpractice. It's unethical. It's imprudent. It's just a blatant disregard of common sense. And through self-experimentation, I can say that with absolute, unequivocal fact. So the appendix is a pouch that's attached to the cecum. The gut bacteria hangs out there during periods of immune reaction. And the appendix, recent studies have shown that it is attached to the immune system. So it can communicate with your lymphatic organs and nodes and all that and through the central nervous system. So when they know there's a problem, they really are the good bacteria, the bacteria that you work symbiotically with. And until it says, hey, you guys need to come home, there's a tornado coming, or there's a hurricane, or there's an earthquake, or there's chemotherapy coming. So when you don't have the appendix, essentially, it'd be like standing outside in a hurricane or a tornado. So what you want is, say for example, Noah's Ark. So if everybody was hanging out on the land and nobody told Noah to build an ark and to put his 3 sons and their wives and all the animals on it, they would have all died. And that's basically what happens to your friendly gut bacteria when you have pathogens and disease enter it and they try to combat it. They all die, or most of them die. Maybe not 100% of them. But they don't have a safe house anymore when you remove the appendix. So it's a very critical function. And there's no way for a man with God create a higher order of intelligence created man. So just from that, man is fairly intelligent and competent. But for man to create other man doesn't really function out too well. And it's a violation of common sense. So after the cecum, there's the colon, which is about 80% of the large intestines. So the majority of water absorption and salts occur in this section. So a lot of times the water in your food will be recycled and the salt will be recycled. And valuable minerals will be taken out of it: the magnesium, the chloride, the potassium, the iron, the phosphorus, the manganese, the zinc. And then that'll be taken into your blood and then cycled through your body to the necessary organs where it's needed, including the potassium as well. And once you get to the second to last stage, it's the rectum, which is about 1.5 inches. And it stretches once you accumulate waste in there, and it signals for defecation. And then once it finally gets to the anus, which is the point where you defecate, which is basically removing fecal matter from your body, there's the inner, which is a non-voluntary sphincter, and then there's the external, which is the voluntary one. So if there was no external voluntary sphincter, you'd basically just crap your pants all the time. And normally crapping your pants is not something you want to do, but occasionally There is a way where you can actually crap your pants and clean them at the same time, and that's by consuming Tide Pods. Some causes for disorders and annoyances as far as your large intestines and just your intestinal system in general. Gas. So if you swallow air that has carbon dioxide in it, that can potentially create gas or belching. You know, air can come out of your mouth or it can come out of your anus, one of the two. And it also comes from bacteria that ferments undigested food, mostly carbohydrates. And you can get undigested food from other means as well. I mean, there are forms of fat that break down into carbohydrates and proteins that the bacteria may also be able to ferment too. But by and large, by current understanding, most bacteria ferments as a result of carbohydrates. For example, if you make some bread and you want it to rise overnight, you feed the yeast the sugars, and it eats the sugars, it passes the gas, and then the bread rises. The gas usually from the bacteria consists of hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane. One of the other annoyances is diarrhea, which is caused from food passing quickly without water absorption. Now, diarrhea can be caused by overly high fiber diets, stress, poison, and infection. Poison and infection are usually a result of the immune system that wants to get in there and attack it and eradicate it right away. Like we said, if you don't have an appendix, the good bacteria has nowhere to go to or flee or retreat to. So not only are you eradicating a lot of the bad bacteria that just entered in your body, you're also getting rid of a lot of the good bacteria. And it's hard to say where it really comes from too. In fact, scientists didn't even know that there was a gut microbiome until a couple decades ago. At least public knowledge. Hell, maybe they knew hundreds of years ago, but public knowledge of the gut microbiome and the large intestines and the cecum, which is where it normally congregates, they didn't really know that till recently, as far as the length of human existence. So high fiber can actually speed up digestion. The soluble fiber, the water. See, when it's covered with water, and then it can flow through your body quicker, and then that allows other nutrients to pick up on it too. So if you eat way too much fiber, it's just going to pass very quickly. And bacteria usually breaks down a good amount of the fiber in your body, and then it extracts the vitamins from it, and then through your large intestines you're able to absorb these vitamins in your bloodstream, directly into your bloodstream. Another disorder is constipation, which means food travels too slowly. The low fiber can cause the food to slow down, especially lack of hydration is probably a bigger factor than the high and low fiber. If you don't drink any water, even if you eat high fiber, the food probably won't go through your system as quickly as you maybe need it to. Plus, if you don't have proper muscle contractions and volvuvations and all that, then it also will slow down as well. Irritable bowel syndrome, that's when the colon muscles contract too quickly. And that usually is a result of lack of hydration, exercise, and drug use as well. Both mostly pharmaceutical pill, orally consumed drugs. If you just drug random crap like methamphetamines, then it probably has a negative effect on your digestive system as well. But orally consumed pharmaceuticals definitely have a negative ramification. Diverticular disease, which is a muscular bowel wall, becomes weak, and then it can become penetrated by the food and everything that gets into it as well. That was a condition that one of the best UFC fighters of all time, Brock Lesnar, had. So if you want to look into disease, just look at Brock Lesnar diverticulitis, and that'll pretty much tell you everything you need to know. So a few additional notes on the large intestines. The colon absorbs vitamins from the gut from breaking down the starch. And some of the vitamins it receives, vitamin K, thiamine, riboflavin, and some vitamin B's. The appendix contains mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue, which we alluded to earlier, and it also contains endocrine cells for early growth and development. So not only is the appendix tied in with the lymphoid system, it's also tied in with the endocrine system, which is your body's means of communication. That's what it uses to communicate to the good bacteria, the bacteria that it exists symbiotically with to head for the hills and to run for cover once you have projectile diarrhea on the horizon. And nutrients like chlorine, magnesium, sodium, potassium are all absorbed in the colon. As water is removed, it mixes the bacteria and the mucus with the partially digested food. So that's basically what you're seeing in the fecal matter. The smell originates from bacteria. So, I mean, in all reality, it's not, considering bacteria is not actually part of yourself, it's a separate living entity. You could say your crap does not stink because it's the bacteria that actually emanates the smell, that the smell is emanating from. Now, there's trillions of bacteria in your gut, and there's over 700 species of it. And there are a few enzymes, but most of your enzyme secreting cells are in your small intestines. So, getting back, we were talking about fiber earlier. The soluble fiber means it dissolves in water. Insoluble fiber, it does not dissolve in water, so that'd be like nuts and plant walls, like broccoli and cauliflower, things of that nature. Soluble fiber would be your oatmeal and the fruits, things like that. So the food residue can linger in your colon for 12 to 24 hours. Otherwise, you'd basically have to find a toilet pretty much multiple times a day. So it is nice that it has that storage functionality. And man, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much wraps up the large intestine. It's the final step, the digestive system. We starts in your mouth, even under your tongue. If you get nutrients under your tongue, it can get directly in your bloodstream as well. So every part of your digestive system has a means of absorbing some type of nutrition. Your mouth, your esophagus, your stomach with the acid that heats up the food and breaks it down and attacks the pathogens, viruses, and evil bacteria. And it gets in your small intestines, and there's 3 stages there: the duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum. And then when you get into your large intestines, you have the cecum, you have the colon, and then you have the rectum and the anus. And that's pretty much your whole digestive system right there. Now, yeah, there's other factors that play into it: the liver, the pancreas, the gallbladder. They're all communicating with all those organisms as well. And the central nervous system does all the communication, and then your blood and your lymphoid systems interface with them as well. So everything works in conjunction with each other. If there's a problem with one organ in your body, it's usually the problem really originates probably somewhere else, and that's the organ that was assigned to take care of it. Yeah, there can be nerve damage too. If you have nerve damage, or there can be constriction of blood flow as well. There are instances of volvulus in the small intestines where people have blood flow that's cut off and it doesn't reach critical parts of the body, then gangrene festers. It does happen. Nobody really can definitively say why or how or when, but those are things to look at. So it is very important to consider all. See, you've probably heard of holistic medicine, which is considering the body as one whole entity. Normal pharmacy just considers, all right, you got a headache, let's fix that. Here's some pills, that'll mask it, you won't have a headache, boom, you're done. Holistic science says you got a headache. Well, all right, have you been sitting on your ass all day? Have you been rolling around in rat poison? Have you been sniffing some glue? That they usually consider the cause rather than the symptom. So I suppose you could say we do try to focus more on the holistic side of disease prevention and being healthy and all that. Well, that being said, we're gonna have to put a wrap on this show, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you and appreciate you joining us once again for this evening's show. We hope you'll join us again. In the meantime, we do have many more organs to cover, then we'll probably be getting into some other aspects. Maybe muscle, tissue, contraction, the central nervous system, how the brain operates. Get into the heart, how it pumps blood and sucks blood and vacuums blood and cleans it. Well, actually, the liver cleans it. So we'll be getting into a lot of that stuff in the near future and hopefully explaining that at an elementary level so pretty much anyone, anywhere, anyhow can understand it and use it as a tool to try to make yourself healthy and great again. So thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Without you, we are absolutely nothing. We exist symbiotically. Essentially, I'm the gut bacteria within you that takes bad stuff and converts it to something good. Thank you very much.